I'd like to introduce you to Dan Mason, a local here in Edmonton. He is got a fabulous story that he wants to share with us today. So I'm just gonna ask him a couple teaser questions, and then he's just gonna answer them, and and then you can sign up for his main meetup that we're doing here in Edmonton if you want to hear the whole spiel. It's a really interesting story. It's going to be at Bonnie Doon Library in Edmonton here at September 24th at about 1:30 in the afternoon. So sign up for that, and I'll leave the meetup link below. Okay, Dan, so my question to you is, well, you got this big, impressive story about going all the way to The Hague over child abduction, but I was just wondering how those kind of circumstances, like what kind of thing, like was it a matter of how does a fellow get into that sort of thing? Like, what is the circumstances?
Well, it was really easy, Monique. My daughter was abducted, sent down to the U.S., and I researched and tried to find something that would help me out in the courts. And by that time, I was about 4 years in the courts, and when it looked like I was going to get custody and she wasn't going to get custody, she decided to haul my daughter into the U.S. And I called the U.S. Immigration, asked them if there was anything that they could do. At that point, they didn't really have anything to work with. So I did some research, and I ended up in contact with the Secretary General of The Hague. There was very few people in Canada, I guess, that ever inquired about anything related to civil abduction by a parent.
Yeah, if I just interject, like there's a lot of guys that talk about similar problems, but they're just not, I guess, as don't have the resources, and it's just like very tragic for them. But yeah, I guess that'd be different in your circumstances.
Well, the circumstances, of course, if your child is taken away from you and is taken to another country, and if you can't find them, it's impossible unless you have some help. Child funds existed back at that time. But it's not just that. What it is that you have a situation where the person doesn't have resources and nobody really knows about it. Most lawyers didn't know about the convention at all. So I went on my own to find somebody who would help. And I just happened to be lucky enough to get a hold of the Secretary General himself. And then I linked up with somebody in the U.S. And between myself, the person in the U.S., and he happened to be a lawyer in Texas for that matter before he decided to be the Secretary General of The Hague. So I was just fortunate to get the right people at the right time. And so he kind of walked me through everything, including the application and everything else, discovered that was a lot of other men who had been in the same situation, but Canada, unfortunately, didn't act for them. And that was very unfortunate and sad to see. So I decided that I would take the bull by the horns and go ahead and not only do the research, but I did a publication on it in Balance Magazine and did a number of other things, including the U.S. Immigration, who was very happy that I called them. And so between myself, U.S. Immigration, State Department, and the Hague Convention itself in the Netherlands, I unraveled the whole thing, got it into court, and in fact took it to appeals court on my own. So
well, I don't want to give too much away for your presentation, but I just also wondering if you could comment on like attitudes and sexism that you've encountered against men through your process.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Well, sexism, like you said, there's nothing for men, but did you see any attitudes for people or like things that you would consider sexism against men?
Absolutely. The courts were the first step on that. When you stand in front of a court and the judges look at you like, what are you doing? And in fact, one judge asked, why do you want to have anything to do with your child? You know, I thought it was absurd that he would even ask that, but I guess that's a common misconception in the courts. When you've got your judges doing that, you can't expect people and men to have any kind of confidence in the court, never mind any success in the court. So I was fortunate to have successes. At the end of the day, I won. But that took a lot of research and a lot of digging and a lot of knowledge.
Okay, so we'll hear from you on that on the 24th, but also I wanted to ask you, like, you're going to talk about the Duluth model. So, like, what kind of background do you have on the Duluth model, and like, why are you an authority to talk on the Duluth model?
Well, Duluth model has been in play for many years. Unfortunately, as you'll find from Christine Hoff Summers, is very plagued with incorrect information. It's 50% wrong to start with because the Duluth model has reference to her throughout the whole model. That puts it 50% in error. They later decided to do a gender neutral. However, it didn't succeed to anything that was really academically correct. So I link up with a number of academics, and I was there at the International Convention on DV, as well as...
What kind of got you interested in it? Like, what made you research it, and was there a reason for that?
Well, men have been on the negative side of the fence, and I guess I linked up with a number of academics, and of course I was one of the 4 people who took the domestic violence handbook to court. So I mean,
Oh, okay.
you know, it's not something I just happened to be into. I was in that group of people at that time, and we were knowledgeable, and nobody else could do it, so I did it. And that was me with a couple lawyers in most cases. So I link up with lawyers usually.
Yeah, that's good. That's like the way to, you know, that you got to move through that bureaucracy, and it's helpful when you have that kind of like fluency in something that, you know, the only really like only effective way would be to engage the system is through like those kind of reputable means, like a lawyer of some sort. Yeah, so I don't want to give too much away, but so is there anything else that you want to just finish up with?
Well, I think people will learn a lot if they came to the event.
Mm-hmm.
They not only learn a lot, but they could be a lot more armed, and especially when they get some real data behind them.
Okay, and so I'm going to post a link to some of the domestic abuse. I wrote a blog recently on domestic abuse against men, and I've cited some of the sources that Dan's talking about. I cited the Partner Abuse State of Knowledge. So as he said, like this is all academic. When you look at the data information, kind of go at it from an unemotional, like, you know, kind of leave your biases at the door. You'd be surprised what you can learn about domestic abuse and some of the crime filters and whatnot. So I'll leave the information. If Dan gives me any information that he wants to share about any papers that he's written, I'll link that below. But so we hope to see you this coming September 24th, Bonnie Doon Library. Please show up, and you can hear our guest speaker, Dan Mason. Thank you so much, Dan.
You're welcome. See you there.